Welcome back. This is a short flip video about what an inverse is. So we're going to be talking about an inverse in the context of trigonometry. We have to start off by reminding ourselves what sine, cosine, and tangent do. So when I talk about the sine of an angle, so I say, let's talk about the sine of 37 degrees. Here are some things we know. First, we know that that refers to the ratio of the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. It's a ratio within a triangle. So if I have some happy little triangle right there, it's a happy little triangle with a happy little 37 degrees. There's my right angle. Then if I divide the opposite by the hypotenuse side, I'm always going to get the same value, regardless of how big or small that triangle is. That means I'm talking about the sine of that angle. This ratio will always give a constant value. I also know that with my calculator, if I type in sine of 37 degrees, my calculator will tell me that for that specific angle, this specific right triangle, I'm going to get out the same value, and that value is consistently 0.60. It's one of the things we like about 37 as a degree angle because it's a consistent one, it's an easy one to remember. When we talk about inverse, what we're looking at is the idea that I can work this backwards. Generally speaking, sine takes an angle and it provides a ratio. That's a general flow. Angle to ratio. Angle to ratio. What we're doing with an inverse is we're saying, what if we know the ratio and we want the angle? What if we want to work this system backwards? So that, for example, perhaps I know that my ratio is 0.8. And I want the angle that goes with it. So I want to know what sine value is going to create that. I feed in the ratio, I get the angle back out. And that's where the inverse functions come from. The way we would write it in this particular case, instead of writing this statement, I'm going to write a matching statement. I'm going to say that my angle, my unknown angle theta, is going to equal the inverse sine of 0.8. Now this -1 right here, that's notation for inverse. There are lots of other ways to talk about this. We talk about what's called the arc sign. You'll see that in some textbooks. And that's the same thing as sine to the negative first. So to recap, normal trig functions take an angle, 37 degrees. They kick out a ratio of 0.6. The inverse functions, I feed in a ratio, and what gets kicked out? An angle. And when I type in the sine -1, you'll notice above the sine button, put in the 0.8, and I get out my angle. It's equal to 53 degrees. There you go.